Hey everybody, and welcome back to our Precision Farming How-To series. In this, which is our second installment, we're going to take a look at soil types and pH. In our first video, we took a fairly broad look at the entire add-on from start to finish, talking about soil sampling, pH treatments, a pre-seeding nitrogen treatment, treating your field after seeding with fertilizer, and then basically the harvest and reaping the rewards of our awesome precision farming. In this video, as I said, we're going to focus exclusively on soil types and pH. And we're going to cover that detail a little bit closer than we did in the first video. So as you can see by this graphic, the precision farming add-on includes 4 different soil types. We have loamy sand, sandy loam, and silty clay. Now, if you're like me, don't mean much. But if we take a look at this pool soil triangle graphic and see how each of these relate to each other, as well as many other different soil types. See that loamy sand is mostly composed of sand, a little bit of clay, and maybe a little bit of silt. Sandy loam is going to have a slightly higher clay content, and as a result, be a little bit lower in overall sand content. And again, we'll have a fairly low silt content. Loam, on the other hand, has a decent mix of clay in it, sand, and titrated off a bit, and a little bit more silt has been added to the mix. Now, this would typically be an ideal soil type for agriculture, and we're going to see why precision farming treats it as such here in a little bit. Last soil type in the precision farming add-on is silty clay. This soil has the highest clay value and is basically a mix of clay and silt with very little sand content. As mentioned in the introduction video, all of the Giants maps, released for FS19, have the soil map included with the precision farming add-on. So if you're playing with Burling Rot, like we are here, Sancha, Wapacho, Ravenport, or Felsburn, you already have a custom soil map ready to go. If you're playing on a mod map, there are 2 possibilities. First, if the map has not yet been updated to support a custom soil map, well, you're still in luck. You can play, as there is included a generic soil map included with the add-on. I'm going to go ahead and put that up. You can see that now. And I've already colored the soil map to match 4 different soil types. See the legend off to the side. And basically this is as if the entire playable area was farmland. Now, what I'm going to do to kind of show another example is I've taken the PDA from Sofnoska. I've basically cut out where the fields are. So I'm going to overlay that on top of the custom soil mask, and you'll see how it all just kind of appears. Now, if you take whatever map you're playing and either you mentally picture PDA, cut out the fields, and then overlay PDA on this generic soil map, then you'll have a general idea of how field composition is going to look like. Now, the other option is going to be if the map maker has updated their map to include a custom soil map, or if you're so inclined to do that yourself, then you can find directions on how to do that in the mod in a documentation folder. Now it comes time to trying to figure out what fields should I pick in order to get the best yield. Take a look here at our global screen. We go to the lands area and then click on any field. Doesn't have to be a field we own. we get the field info breakdown. See that this field is 10% loamy sand, 38% sandy loam, 48% loam, and 2% silty clay. So we can expect our yield to be about 107% from baseline. Now, since the first video, we've also acquired field 21. The field 21's breakdown is loamy sand of 12%, sandy loam of 60%, loam of 26%, no clay, and we only have a 1.102% yield. The reason we have a lower yield is we have greater loamy sand. Loamy sand does not yield best. Take a look here at field 20. You have less loamy sand, more sandy loam. 19, 18, have a lot of loamy sand, 90% yield. 13, much an even breakdown almost between loamy sand and sandy loam. Result, we're 91% possible yield, 0.38 hectares. Here we have a smaller field, 2.02 hectares, but it has no loamy sand, 28% sandy loam, 6% loam, 13% clay. Our yield is 110%. So this field, smaller, will probably net more harvest than this one right here. Now let's take a look here at this infographic that I made up by pulling data out of Precision Farming XML. And what this graphic is showing us is, on the left, the 4 different soil types of loamy sand, sandy loam, loam, and silty clay. And then we can see the yield potential, optimal pH levels, and the pH reduction per harvest. So we can see that loamy sand, if you do everything perfect, has got a yield potential of just 80%. Sandy loam has a yield potential of 100%. It's kind of your baseline. And loam has a yield potential of 125%. That goes back to what I said earlier about loam kind of being ideal for agriculture. Now, silty clay, not as bad as loamy sand, not as good as sandy loam, at a 90% yield potential. Each soil type is going to have a different optimal pH value. Loamy sand of 6, sandy loam of 6.5, loam of 6.75, and silty clay of 7.0. Now, each field is going to have kind of its own baseline pH levels. And I'm going to go ahead and put up a graphic here of the pH across the entire Erlengrot map, or any player harvests have been put down. You can kind of see how the pH is broken down. I'll put the pH chart legend also up here so you can take a look at that. And then let's take a look here at the pH reduction per harvest. So loamy sand and sandy loam reduce by 1.25 pH per harvest. After 3 harvests, that's 0.375 reduction. Doing my math correctly. Loam and silty clay reduce by 0.25. They give up their pH twice as quickly as sandy loam or loamy sand. And after 3 harvests, their pH value is going to be reduced by 0.750. Now there is apparently in the XML some information that looks like if you have too low of pH, you're going to have a yield reduction. And possibly if you have too high of a pH, you're going to have a yield reduction. So we're going to try a few things here today. So this field we just harvested. We're going to put some lime on here, see what it does. See if we over lime this field, or if our automatic application rate is going to basically allow us to sprinkle lime out to such a degree that we get it back to perfect. And then we're going to apply lime to the field that we just purchased and did some soil testing on to get it up to a perfect level. I'll be back with you in a little bit. So here we are in field 22, the field that we harvest in part 1 of our Precision Farming How-To series. And you can see that loam, which as we know has an optimal pH of 6.75, now has a good pH value of 6.5, which is basically 2 ticks down the pH scale. Take a look here at our pH. It is basically 1 visual tick down, but in looking at the XML, there are basically interim ticks that are not being shown on the legend. So 6.50 current pH. We move over here and get into a different part of the soil. See, now we are in sandy loam. Sandy loam has an ideal pH of 6.5, and we're down 1.125 pH from our optimal level. This way, loam, sandy loam, loamy sand, they're at 5.875 with our optimal level of 6.0. And if we go over here to a field that we haven't done anything to, you're going to see that our pH values are listed as okay, of 6.125 out of 6.5. Wait a little bit. We are on loamy sand, 5.750 out of 6. And then sandy loam, 0.125 out of 6.50. Again, what we're going to do is we are going to see what happens when we apply lime to both of these fields. Pull up our F1 menu, and again, our lime application is set to auto. I want to see if, in theory, we could maintain the optimal pH by applying lime after every single harvest. Or if it's going to cause our lime to over apply. Right now we're applying 1.25 to our field. Now we're applying 0.75 to our field that we haven't harvested in. We're dumping a lot more lime onto this field. And as we move across the different soil types, kind of see it automatically changing what the target is, automatically changing the application rate. Does indeed look like we can apply lime after every harvest, maintain optimal pH levels of our soil. Now we're applying only 0.125, trickling that lime out into loam. It needs to apply 0.25 because loam reduces at twice the rate that sandy loam reduces at. And we're just going to hire a helper and take a look. And we indeed now have perfect pH on our field. Move out here to where we haven't applied any. Down to good pH level. And if we move across the field, getting perfect all the way across, of course, into the field that we just acquired. So guys, that is a little bit more detail on soil types and pH. Not as long as the first video, and I really didn't expect either part 2 or 3 be as long as the first video, because in the first video we covered everything kind of at a broad scale, telling you how it all kind of worked. And in the second and third video, breaking it down a little bit more, hopefully giving you a little bit better understanding of soil types, how the soil types are going to affect ultimately the yield. Take a look here at our yield for this field. And you can see based on soil type, here we have loam. And what we learned earlier in the video, loam has a maximum yield 1.25, 125%. And pretty much what we saw, 125%. See that sandy loam here and here have a maximum yield of 100%. And that's pretty much what we saw out of yield. And then loamy sand right here, which we learned earlier, has a maximum yield of 80%. And look there, that swath pretty much matches up exactly with loamy sand. Expect more of that to continue as we harvest crop out of field 21. 80%. This area should be 100%, and this area up here should be about 125%, assuming we do everything correctly. See how we are now up here at 0.75, 5, applied lime, everything back to its ideal levels. Let me know what you thought of part 2 in the comments. Did it help you at all better understand the different soil types in the precision farming add-on? Did it help you understand how lime is being applied, how lime is basically being reduced for harvest, and what the ultimate optimal levels are for yield and lime for the various soil types? And until next time, happy farming. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell.